The stars looked different from Kelthera Prime. Captain Yunwu pressed his face against the cracked window of his crashed ship and watched 3 purple suns set behind jagged mountains. His reconnaissance vessel, the Explorer, lay twisted in a rocky valley like a broken bird. Smoke still rose from the damaged engines. "Captain, we have a problem," Jimin called from across the wreckage. The xenobiologist held a scanner in her shaking hands. "The readings don't make sense." Hyunwoo picked his way through twisted metal and broken equipment to reach her. Around them, the other 5 crew members worked to salvage what they could. Taeho, their engineer, muttered curse words as he tried to restart the power systems. The ship's doctor, Sang-wook, bandaged a cut on Navigator Bo-Ram's forehead. "What kind of problem?" Hyunwoo asked. Jimin showed him the scanner display. Numbers flashed red across the small screen. "The quantum readings are all wrong. The atoms here are unstable. It's like something is breaking them apart at the smallest level." Before Hyunwoo could respond, a shadow fell across them. He looked up to see massive shapes moving between the rocks. The Vorthak had found them. The aliens stood 3 meters tall with thick armored skin the color of rust. Their faces looked like angry lizards with too many teeth. Each one carried weapons that could punch holes through starship hull plating. Behind them, more Vorthak emerged from hidden positions among the stones. The leader stepped forward. When he spoke, the translator device on Hyunwoo's belt turned his growling words into clear Korean. "I am Commander Thexaval of the Vorthak Empire. You have crashed on Forbidden World. You will come with us now." Hyunwoo raised his hands slowly. "We mean no harm. Our ship suffered engine failure. We're explorers from Earth." "Earth?" Thexval's yellow eyes narrowed. "The small blue world with the loud broadcasts?" "That's us," Hyunwoo said with a weak smile. "Your kind are known to us, always asking questions, always poking at things better left alone." Thexval gestured with his weapon. "Move." The Vorthak marched them through a maze of crystal formations toward a massive city built into the mountainside. The buildings looked like they had been carved from single pieces of dark stone. Strange lights flickered in windows that resembled hungry mouths. As they walked, Jimin kept checking her scanner. "Captain," she whispered, "the quantum decay is getting worse. These readings, I think this entire planet is dying." They were brought to a great hall where hundreds of Vorthak warriors stood in perfect rows. At the far end, an enormous Vorthak sat on a throne made from what looked like crystallized fire. His armor bore marks of countless battles. "Supreme Leader Kexmore," Thexaval announced. "The aliens from the crashed ship." Kexmore studied them with ancient eyes. "Humans, we have heard stories. You travel far from your small world. Why do you come here?" "We explore to learn," Hyunwoo said. "We want to understand the universe." Understanding. Kexmore spoke the word like it tasted bitter. "Your ships carry no weapons of war. Your people send messages of greeting to empty space. Strange behavior for a species." "We prefer peace to war," Hyunwoo replied. Several Vorthak warriors made sounds that might have been laughter. Kexmore raised a clawed hand for silence. "Peace is weakness. The strong take what they need. The weak serve the strong. This is the way." "With respect," Jimin stepped forward. "Your way might be killing your world." The hall went deadly quiet. Thexval's hand moved to his weapon. "You dare insult the Supreme Leader?" "No insult intended," Jimin said quickly. "But my instruments show quantum decay throughout your planet's matter. If it continues, Kelthera Prime will cease to exist within 2 years." Kexmore stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of mountains. "Explain." Jimin activated her scanner and projected a holographic display. "Something is breaking down the bonds between atoms. It started small, maybe decades ago, but it's spreading. The decay follows quantum tunneling patterns. Eventually, everything here will simply fall apart. Our scientists have detected no such thing," Thexval growled. "Maybe they're looking in the wrong places," Taeho said. The engineer had been studying the display with growing excitement. "This pattern, it's like a quantum virus. It spreads through subspace connections between particles." Kexmore's expression darkened. You claim to understand Vorthak science better than Vorthak scientists? Not better, Hyunwoo said carefully. Different. Human science focuses on small things. We study atoms and particles because our technology isn't as advanced as yours. Maybe that gives us a different view. For long moments, the only sound was the distant hum of machinery. Finally, Kexmore spoke. Show us. They were taken to a laboratory deep within the mountain. Vorthak scientists, their armor replaced with practical work clothes, gathered around as Jimin set up her equipment. Their lead scientist, a female named Vorthak, watched with obvious skepticism. Human instruments are primitive, Vorthak declared. They cannot detect what our advanced sensors miss. Maybe, Jimin agreed. But sometimes simple tools see simple problems. She connected her scanner to a sample of local rock. The quantum signature appeared on a large display screen. The Vorthak scientists leaned forward as patterns of decay became visible. Impossible, Vorthak whispered. The quantum foam should be stable. Not if something is feeding on it, Taeho said. He had connected his engineering scanner to the system. Look at these energy readings. Something is drawing power from the quantum level itself. The revelation hit the Vorthak scientists like a physical blow. Their world, their proud civilization, was slowly dissolving at the most basic level of reality. Can it be stopped? Kexmore demanded. Jimin and Taeho exchanged glances. Maybe, Jimin said slowly. The decay follows quantum field lines. If we could stabilize the field. Our ship's quantum reactor, Taeho said suddenly. It's damaged, but the quantum stabilizer core is intact. If we could adapt it. You would do this? Thexval asked. Risk your lives for a world not your own. 12 billion people live on this planet, Hyunwoo said. We can't just watch them die. What followed were 3 days of desperate work. The human crew, along with Vorthak scientists and engineers, labored to create a quantum field stabilizer large enough to affect an entire world. They cannibalized parts from the crashed ship, combined human and Vorthak technology, and worked without sleep. Taeho made the final connection with his own hands, knowing that using their ship's reactor this way would leave them stranded forever. The device hummed to life, sending stabilizing waves deep into the planet's quantum structure. The effect was immediate. The decay readings slowed, then stopped. Kelthera Prime would live. In the Great Hall, Kexmore stood before the assembled Vorthak leadership. His voice carried to every corner of the vast space. These humans have given us the greatest gift possible. They have given us tomorrow. He turned to face Hyunwoo and his crew. By ancient law, by sacred honor, the Vorthak Empire owes you a debt that can never be repaid. What you have done will be remembered for all time. When you have need, call upon us, and we will answer. Thexval stepped forward and removed a crystal pendant from around his neck. This is a debt stone, he explained as he placed it in Hyunwoo's hands. It carries the full weight of Vorthak honor. One day, you may have need of our strength. When that day comes, activate this stone, and the entire Vorthak fleet will come to your aid. Hyunwoo looked at the crystal, beautiful and warm, in his palm. We didn't do this for reward, he said. That, Kexmore replied, is exactly why the debt can never be repaid. 3 months later, when the rescue ship arrived from Earth, Hyunwoo carefully packed the debt stone away. It seemed like a ceremonial gift, a beautiful memory of an impossible adventure. He had no idea that in 5 years, that small crystal would summon the largest war fleet in galactic history. The colony ship New Soul drifted through space like a sleeping giant. Inside its massive hull, 50,000 humans lived in temporary homes, waiting for their new life to begin. Dr. So Young walked through the main corridor, watching families play games and children run between the sleeping pods. After 18 months of travel, everyone was ready to reach their destination. Final approach in 6 hours, announced Captain Minho over the ship's communication system. Kepler 442c awaits us. So Young smiled as cheers echoed through the corridors. As the mission's chief scientist, she had spent years studying their new home. Kepler 442c was perfect for human life. Green forests, blue oceans, and air they could breathe without masks. No dangerous animals or hostile weather. It would be paradise. She made her way to the bridge where Captain Minho stood studying navigation displays. The planet appeared on the main screen, beautiful and blue-green, exactly as the probes had shown. Any problems? So, Young asked. None so far, Minho replied. All systems normal. The colonists are excited. Even the children have stopped complaining about the recycled food. Navigation Officer Yun Su looked up from her station. Captain, I'm detecting something strange. There are ships near the planet. Lots of ships. The main screen changed to show space around Kepler 442c. What they saw made everyone on the bridge freeze. Hundreds of alien vessels formed a massive wall between the colony ship and the planet. The ships were enormous, bristling with weapons that could destroy the new Sol with a single shot. Red alert, Minho said quietly. All stop. Alarm lights flashed throughout the ship as the new Sol came to a halt. In the corridors, colonists stopped playing and children stopped running. Everyone knew something was wrong. Incoming transmission, reported Communications Officer Jun Sik. Put it through, Minho ordered. The main screen showed an alien face that looked like a cross between a shark and a snake. Cold yellow eyes stared at them without emotion. When it spoke, the universal translator made its voice sound like grinding. Metal. I am Overlord Krexthon of the Saurian Dominion. You have entered Hegemony Coalition space without permission. Your primitive species is not welcome here. Turn around and leave immediately. Minho stepped forward. I am Captain Minho of the Earth colony ship New Sol. We come in peace. Our destination world has no intelligent life. We seek only to build a home. Your destination is irrelevant, Krexthon replied. This entire sector belongs to the Hegemony Coalition. Primitive species are forbidden. Your rapid technological advancement makes you dangerous. You will leave now or be destroyed. So Young felt her heart sink. They had traveled, so far used so many resources. The colonists had sold everything they owned for a chance at a new life. Captain, she whispered, we can't go back. Earth's resources are nearly gone. These people have nowhere else to go. Minho nodded grimly. He knew the situation as well as she did. Earth was dying slowly, choked by pollution and overcrowding. These 50,000 colonists represented humanity's first real chance to spread to the stars. Overlord Krexthon, Minho said formally, we understand your concerns, but we cannot return to Earth. Our home world is dying. We need this new world to survive as a species. That is not our problem, Krexthon said without emotion. You have 1 hour to leave, or we will consider you an invasion force. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Options? Minho asked his crew. We could try to run, suggested Navigator Yun Su, but they have over 200 ships. They would catch us before we reached hyperspace. We could send a message to Earth, offered Jun Sik. But help would take 2 years to arrive, if it could come at all. So, Young remembered something from her files. Captain, what about that old favor, the one from the Kelthara Prime incident 5 years ago? Minho looked confused for a moment. Then his eyes widened. Admiral Hyunwoo's debt stone. You think the Vorthak would actually honor that? We're about to find out, So Young said. We need a miracle, and they promised to provide one. Minho thought for a long moment, weighing their desperate situation against the slim hope of alien honor. Finally, he nodded. Jun Sik, send a general distress call on all frequencies. Include the details of our situation and our location. What should I say about the Vorthak? Jun Sik asked. Tell them that humanity calls upon the debt of honor owed by the Vorthak Empire, Minho said, and hope they remember us. The message went out across space, broadcasting on every communication channel. For 30 minutes, nothing happened. The hegemony ships waited in their threatening formation while the new Sol drifted helplessly between them and safety. Then space itself seemed to tear open. A massive hole appeared in the star field, and through it came ships like nothing the humans had ever seen. They were enormous, covered in spikes and angular armor that looked like weapons themselves. Red lights pulsed along their hulls like heartbeats, and their engines left trails of crimson fire. More ships followed, then more, Within minutes, 300 Vorthak vessels had formed their own line between the New Sol and the Hegemony fleet. "Incoming transmission," Junsik announced, his voice filled with amazement. The main screen now showed a familiar face. Commander Thexval, older now and wearing the insignia of a fleet admiral, looked directly at Captain Minho. "Captain Minho, of Earth," Thexval said formally. "5 years ago, your people saved our homeworld when we could not save ourselves. The debt of honor remains unpaid. We have come to repay it now." Relief flooded through So Young like a warm wave. Behind her, she could hear crew members cheering. Throughout the ship, the colonists who had been watching the drama unfold began to celebrate. But their celebration was short-lived. The Hegemony fleet was already moving, forming attack formations. More ships appeared as reinforcements arrived. From other parts of the sector, Overlord Krexthon appeared on screen again, his cold eyes now filled with anger. "Vorthak fleet, you violate hegemony space. Remove yourselves immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Thexval's response was broadcast on all frequencies, ensuring that every ship in the area could hear it. "For 5 cycles, the debt has weighed upon our honor. These humans saved 12 billion Vorthak lives when they had every reason to leave us to die. They gave us tomorrow when today seemed lost." He paused, and So Young could see the determination in his alien features. "The Vorthak Empire does not abandon its debts. Any who stand against these humans stand against us. Any who would harm them must first destroy us. This is our choice, and we make it freely." The space between the two fleets crackled with tension. Weapons powered up on both sides, creating an energy field that made the stars shimmer. So Young realized she was witnessing the moments before what might become the largest space battle in galactic history. "Fleet Admiral," Captain Minho transmitted to Thexval, "we don't want you to fight because of us. We can find another world." "Captain Minho," Thexval replied, "your people have a saying. You stand by your friends. Today, we learn what this means." Overlord Krexthon's voice cut across all communications. "Final warning to all vessels. This sector is under hegemony control. Any ship that does not withdraw will be destroyed." Admiral Thexval's response was simple and final. "Then you will have to destroy us all." So Young gripped the railing as she watched hundreds of alien warships face each other across the void. All around her, the crew of the New Sol held their breath. In the corridors beyond, 50,000 colonists waited to learn whether their new home would be bought with blood. The Hegemony fleet began to advance. Energy weapons charged to full power, casting ominous glows across the darkness of space. The Vorthak fleet responded by forming a protective wall around the colony ship, their own weapons ready for war. So Young closed her eyes and wished desperately that there was another way. When she opened them again, the first shots were already being fired. The first weapon blast lit up space like a small sun. Commander Yunji watched from the bridge of the escort destroyer Busan as energy beams lanced between the two massive fleets. She had been ordered to stay close to the colony ship New Sol, but every instinct told her to join the fight. "Vorthak's ship Thunder's Edge is taking heavy damage," reported Tactical Officer Dong Hyun. 3 hegemony cruisers are focusing fire on her port side. Ayunji gripped her command chair as explosions bloomed across the battlefield. The Vorthak were fighting like demons, but they were still outnumbered almost 2 to 1. For every hegemony ship they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. On the main screen, she could see Admiral Thexval's flagship trading massive volleys with a Saurian dreadnought. Both ships were taking terrible damage, their hulls glowing, red-hot from weapon impacts. "Ma'am," called Communications Officer Haijin, "Admiral Thexval is requesting all technical data on our shield harmonics. He says it might help them adjust their defensive systems." "Send it immediately," Yunji ordered. "Everything we have." She turned to watch the colony ship floating helplessly in the middle of the battle. Inside that massive vessel, 50,000 humans waited to learn their fate. Families huddled together while outside their walls. Aliens died fighting for their right to live on a distant world. The fighting had been going on for 6 hours now. Both fleets had taken serious losses. Debris from destroyed ships drifted between the surviving vessels like metallic snow. Emergency beacons flashed from escape pods scattered throughout the battle zone. "Incoming transmission from the Hegemony command ship," Hijin announced. The main screen showed Supreme Chancellor Veltara of the Crystalline Assembly. Her body looked like living diamond, beautiful and cold. When she spoke, her voice sounded like breaking glass. "This destruction serves no purpose," Veltara said. "Too many have died already. Vorthak fleet, withdraw now and we will consider this matter closed." Admiral Thexval's scarred face appeared in a smaller window. "The debt remains unpaid, Chancellor. We do not abandon our obligations." "Your obligations?" Veltara's crystalline features showed what might have been anger. "You risk the stability of the entire sector for a handful of primitives." "These primitives saved our entire civilization," Thexval replied firmly. "Without them, Kelthera Prime would be dust. 12 billion Vorthak owe their lives to human generosity." Overlord Krexthon's image joined the conversation. His shark-like features were twisted with rage. "Generosity? These humans are dangerous. Their technology advances too quickly. They ask too many questions. They make too many friends. In 50 years, they will threaten every established power in the galaxy." "Fear," Thexval said simply. "You attack them because you fear what they might become." "I attack them because I know what they will become," Krexthon snarled. "They spread like a virus, making allies everywhere they go. They solve problems that should not be solved. They save races that should be left to die. They upset the natural order." Yunji felt a chill as she realized what Krexthon was really saying. The Hegemony Coalition wasn't just trying to stop human expansion. They were trying to prevent humanity from changing the galaxy's power structure. "The natural order," Thexval repeated thoughtfully. "You mean the order where the strong rule the weak? Where suffering is ignored if it serves your interests?" "Yes," Krexthon shouted. "That is how civilizations survive. That is how order is maintained." "Then perhaps," Thexval said quietly, "it is time for a new order." The transmission ended, and the battle resumed with even greater fury. But now Yunji understood what was really happening. This wasn't just about one colony ship or one world. This was about two completely different views of how the galaxy should work. "Ma'am," Dong-hyun called out, "I'm detecting new ship signatures approaching from multiple directions." Yunji looked at the tactical display with growing worry. "Hegemony reinforcements?" "I don't think so," Dong-hyun said, his voice uncertain. "These signatures don't match any known hegemony designs. In fact, they don't match any designs in our database." On the screen, space began to ripple as new ships emerged from hyperspace. But these weren't like anything Yunji had ever seen. Some looked like they were made of pure light. Others seemed to bend space around themselves. A few appeared to be constructed from materials that hurt to look at directly. "Unknown vessels," came a transmission on an open frequency. "This is Admiral Thexval of the Vorthak Empire. Identify yourselves and state your intentions." The response came from multiple sources at once, creating a strange harmony of alien voices. The universal translator struggled to make sense of languages it had never encountered before. "We are the quiet ones," said a voice like whispered wind. "We have watched the humans since their early space flights. They showed mercy to our scouts when they crashed on their moon. The debt endures." "We are the Nexus Collective," added a voice that sounded like singing crystals. "Human mathematicians shared equations that saved our computational matrix from collapse. We remember." "We are the ethereal wanderers," came a third voice, hollow and distant. "When we lost our way between dimensions, human philosophers gave us new purpose. The obligation remains." More voices joined the chorus. "The Photonic Empire, the Benthic Collective, the Void Touched." Species after species announced themselves, each claiming some debt to humanity that Yunji had never heard of. On the tactical display, the number of ships continued to grow. Hundreds became thousands. The original battlefield was now surrounded by the strangest collection of vessels ever assembled. "This is impossible," whispered Hye-jin. "Where did they all come from?" Yunji stared at the display in amazement. "I think they've been out there all along, waiting." Supreme Chancellor Veltara's transmission was filled with static and disbelief. "What is the meaning of this? Why do so many species involve themselves in this dispute?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. So Young's voice broadcast from the colony ship, reaching every vessel in the area. Because, So Young said simply, humanity has been making friends without realizing it. Every time we've met a new species, we've tried to help them. Every first contact, every scientific exchange, every rescue mission. We thought we were just being decent people. She paused, and Yunji could hear the wonder in her voice. We never knew they were keeping track. Overlord Krexthon's transmission was barely controlled rage. This proves my point. The humans are too dangerous. They turn every species they meet into allies. They must be stopped before they corrupt the entire galaxy. Corrupt? Admiral Thexaval's laugh was like grinding stone. They teach cooperation instead of conquest. They share knowledge instead of hoarding it. They help the weak instead of crushing them. If this is corruption, then perhaps the galaxy needs more of it. The assembled alien fleets began to move into formation. Ships that had never worked together somehow found a common purpose. Energy fields synchronized across different technologies. Weapons that operated on completely different principles prepared to fight side by side. Yunji watched in fascination as the impossible armada organized itself around the small human colony ship. Beings of living light flew alongside creatures of crystallized thought. Ships that existed partially in other dimensions coordinated with vessels that seemed to be made of condensed starlight. Ma'am, Donghyun said in an awed whisper, the tactical computer can't even count them all. It just says insufficient data to calculate total fleet strength. How many? Yunji asked. Conservative estimate? Over 3,000 ships representing at least 50 different species, and more are still arriving. On the communication channels, voices continued to announce themselves. Some claimed debts for scientific help, others for rescue missions. A few mentioned philosophical discussions that had changed their entire worldview. The mathematical concordance remembers when human children sent them poetry that taught them new ways to think about numbers. The Storm Riders recall when human weather satellites warned them of a solar flare that would have destroyed their entire migration. The Dreamweavers will never forget when human artists showed them new colors that didn't exist in their dimension. Each declaration brought more ships, more allies, more impossible debts that humanity had never known they were creating. Supreme Chancellor Veltara's final transmission was barely audible over the static of so many different technologies operating in the same space. This changes everything, she said, her crystalline voice filled with something that might have been fear. How can we fight so many? How can we maintain order against such chaos? Admiral Thexval's response carried across the void to every ship in the assembled armada. Perhaps, Chancellor, the question you should ask is this. What kind of people inspire such loyalty? And what does that say about the order you're trying to preserve? As if in answer to his words, the impossible fleet began to move forward, surrounding the hegemony forces like a net made of starlight and dreams. Ambassador Q Min stood in the observation deck of the New Seoul, watching history unfold outside the massive windows. The impossible fleet stretched as far as he could see, ships of every conceivable design floating in perfect formation around the human colony ship. Some vessels pulsed with their own inner light. Others seemed to absorb light, creating dark spots against the stars. Sir, his aide, Ju-Wan, said quietly, we're receiving another transmission. This one is different. Q-Min turned from the window. As the colony ship's senior diplomat, he had been trying to make sense of the situation for the past 4 hours. Every few minutes, another alien species announced itself and claimed some debt to humanity. The stories were becoming more incredible by the hour. Different how? He asked. The source is a ship we can barely detect, Ju-Wan explained. Our sensors say it's there, but our eyes say it isn't. The beings aboard call themselves the Quiet Ones. The main communication screen flickered to life, but instead of showing an alien face, it displayed only shifting patterns of light and shadow. When the Quiet Ones spoke, their words seemed to come from inside Q-Min's mind rather than through the speakers. Greetings, Ambassador Q-Min of humanity, the voice whispered like wind through leaves. We have watched your species for many of your years. We remember the kindness shown to our scouts in your year 1947. Q-Min felt confused. 1947? I'm sorry, but I don't understand. What happened in 1947? Your people found our crashed exploration vessel on your moon, the quiet ones explained. Your military retrieved the wreckage and the bodies of our crew. Instead of studying them for weapons technology, your scientists gave them a proper burial. According to your customs, they treated our dead with respect, though they knew nothing about us. But, Cumin said slowly, that would have been classified, hidden from the public. Yes, the quiet ones agreed. Your leaders chose to keep our existence secret to prevent panic, but they also chose to honor our fallen. This small act of decency has not been forgotten. The debt remains. More transmissions followed, each more amazing than the last. The photonic empire materialized from streams of pure light, their ships looking like captured rainbows. Their leader spoke in harmonious tones that made the air itself sing. We are the children of stars, the photonic emperor announced. 50 years ago, your mathematician Professor Na Young published equations that helped us understand how light could achieve consciousness. Her work saved our entire civilization from fading back into ordinary photons. Cumin tried to remember. Professor Na Young. She disappeared in 2054. Her research was never completed. She did not disappear, the photonic emperor corrected gently. She ascended. We offered her the chance to become one with light itself. She accepted, and her consciousness now forms part of our collective knowledge. Through her, we learned to become more than we were. The next arrival defied all logic. Space itself seemed to tear open, revealing an impossible darkness shot through with purple lightning. From this void emerged ships that looked like frozen screams, beautiful and terrible at the same time. We are the void touched, their leader announced in a voice like distant thunder. We dwelt in the spaces between spaces, dying slowly as the universe expanded around us. Your species sang to us across the emptiness when we thought we were the last beings in existence. Sang to you? Cumin asked. How did we sing to you? Your radio telescopes broadcast music into space, the void touched explained. Symphony, orchestras, children's choirs, folk songs from 1,000 cultures. For centuries, we listened to these signals and learned that we were not alone. Your music taught us hope when we had forgotten what hope meant. Ambassador Cumin sank into a chair as the implications hit him. All those SETI broadcasts, we were really communicating? More than communicating, the void touched replied. You were saving us. The arrivals continued throughout the day. The benthic collective rose from subspace like enormous whales made of crystallized water. They spoke in songs that the universal translator could barely handle. We swim in the deep currents between galaxies, they sang. For eons, we traveled alone, believing we were the only intelligence in the void. Then your Voyager probes reached the edge of your solar system, carrying recordings of Earth sounds, whale songs, human voices, the music of your world. Through these gifts, we learned that others shared our love of song and community. Captain Minho joined Cumin in the observation deck as more impossible ships appeared. A vessel that looked like a living tree drifted past, its branches reaching toward the stars. Behind it came a ship that seemed to be made of flowing water held together by force fields. How many now? Minho asked. Over 4,000, Cumin replied numbly. And they keep coming. The communication board lit up with another incoming transmission. This time, the ship that appeared looked almost normal compared to the others. It was clearly artificial, made of familiar metals and conventional technology. Only its enormous size marked it as alien. We are the builders, their representative announced. The alien looked roughly humanoid, with 6 arms and skin like polished copper. We construct great works across the galaxy. Dyson spheres, ring worlds, stellar engines. We are the engineers of impossible projects. And your debt to humanity? Cumin asked, though he was beginning to expect another incredible story. In your year 2019, your species began construction of a project you called the International Space Station, the builder explained. Small by our standards, but we watched with great interest, not because of its size, but because of how you built it. The builder's expression showed what might have been admiration. 17 different nations worked together despite having different languages, politics, and technologies. They shared resources, solved problems cooperatively, and created something beautiful. This was the first time we had seen multiple human tribes work as one on such a scale. The space station? Minho said. That's what impressed you? Not the station itself, the builder corrected. The cooperation. You showed us that different groups could build together instead of competing. This lesson changed our entire civilization. Before watching your space station, we builders worked alone, each creating our own separate projects. Now we collaborate, sharing designs and working together on structures that span entire star systems. Dr. So Young's voice came over the ship's communication system. Ambassador Captain, please report to the science laboratory. We're receiving some very unusual data. They made their way through corridors filled with amazed colonists. Children pressed their faces against viewing ports, watching the impossible parade of alien ships. Adults gathered in small groups, trying to make sense of what was happening. In the laboratory, So Young stood before a massive display screen showing a map of local space. Red dots marked the positions of the assembled alien fleets. Blue lines connected each group to various locations throughout human space. I've been analyzing the pattern of arrivals, So Young explained. Every species that's joined us can trace their connection to humanity back to a specific event. A rescue mission, a scientific exchange, a cultural broadcast. The dates go back over a century. She touched the screen, highlighting different connections. The crystalline healers remember when human doctors shared information about organ transplants. The metal shapers learned new techniques from our industrial processes. The time drifters were helped by human philosophers who gave them new perspectives on causality. But we never knew, Q-Min said in wonder. We had no idea we were creating these relationships. That's exactly the point, So Young replied. We weren't trying to create debts or obligations. We were just being ourselves, curious, helpful, willing to share. Every first contact, every scientific paper we published, every cultural broadcast we sent into space. We thought we were just reaching out to make friends. Captain Minho studied the display, and instead we were building the largest alliance in galactic history. Not building, So Young corrected. We already built it. We just didn't know it existed. On the main screen, Admiral Thexval's scarred face appeared. Behind him, his bridge crew worked frantically to coordinate with the thousands of alien vessels now surrounding the new Sol. Captain Minho, Thexval said, we are receiving surrender requests from several Hegemony Coalition ships. Their commanders report that many of their crew members refuse to fight against such overwhelming odds. Surrender? Minho asked. The Hegemony fleet is dissolving, Thexval explained. Individual ships are breaking formation and requesting safe passage out of the sector. Overlord Krexthon's own officers are questioning his orders. Supreme Chancellor Veltara has requested a diplomatic conference. Q-Min felt a surge of hope. Maybe we can end this without more fighting. Perhaps, Thexval agreed. But first, there is something you should know. We have been monitoring long-range communications. Word of this gathering is spreading throughout the galaxy. Other species are learning that humanity has such widespread support. Is that good or bad? Minho asked. Admiral Thexval's expression was unreadable. Captain, in the past 6 hours, you have assembled the largest military force in recorded galactic history, not through conquest or threats, but through accumulated acts of kindness. Every species here came voluntarily to repay debts of home. Admiral Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Incheon, watching the impossible sight before them. The rescue fleet he had brought from Earth seemed tiny compared to the thousands of alien ships surrounding the colony vessel New Sol. When he had received Captain Minho's distress call, he expected to find a small battle. Instead, he found what looked like the entire galaxy assembled in one place. Sir, Intelligence Officer Da-un said quietly, you need to see this. She led him to a secure briefing room where classified files from Earth's archives covered every available screen. Images, documents, and video recordings stretched back over 150 years of human space exploration. I've been analyzing every first contact report, every diplomatic exchange, every scientific mission since we first left Earth, Da-un explained. The pattern is incredible, sir. We've been creating these debts everywhere we go, and we never realized it. Hyun-woo studied the displays. Show me. Da-un activated a holographic timeline. 2012. The Arecibo radio telescope sends a message towards star cluster M13. The The message includes mathematical constants, human DNA information, and a crude picture of a human being. What we didn't know was that the geometric minds were listening. They used our mathematical examples to solve a calculation problem that had stumped them for millennia. The geometric minds? Hyunwoo asked. They arrived 3 hours ago, Da-Yun replied. Their ships look like flying mathematical equations. They claim that human mathematics saved their civilization from a logical paradox that was driving them insane. She moved to the next display. 2034. Human asteroid miners rescue survivors from an unknown alien ship near Jupiter. The miners gave the aliens food, medical care, and safe passage home. They never reported the incident because they thought no one would believe them. And the aliens? The wandering fleet. Nomads who travel between star systems in generation. Ships. They arrived this morning with over 200 vessels. Their leader says humanity showed them kindness when they were lost and far from home. Hyunwoo sat down heavily as Da-Eun continued through the timeline. Every decade revealed new incidents. Human scientists sharing research data that accidentally solved alien problems. Rescue ships helping damaged alien vessels. Even children's. Drawings sent into space on various missions, which apparently taught several species new ways to think about art and creativity. The most incredible part, Da-Yun said, is that we almost always helped without expecting anything in return. We shared information freely. We rescued people because it was the right thing to do. We sent cultural materials into space just hoping someone might find them interesting. And every time we did that, Hyunwoo realized, we created another debt of honor. Exactly. But sir, there's something else, something bigger. Daeyeon activated a new display showing communication intercepts from across the galaxy. Word about this gathering is spreading. Other species are learning about humanity's unique approach to diplomacy. The screen showed translated messages, flying between distant star systems. Comments ranged from amazement to fear to curiosity. Some species were asking their own governments why they had never received such widespread support. Others were questioning whether the traditional power structures in the galaxy made sense anymore. The reaction from the major powers is particularly interesting, Da-Yun continued. The hegemony coalition is fragmenting as member species begin asking uncomfortable questions. Why do the humans have so many allies while the coalition rules through fear? Several member worlds are requesting information about human diplomatic methods. Hyunwoo felt a chill of responsibility. We're accidentally starting a galactic revolution. It gets better, sir. Or worse, depending on your point of view. Da-Yun showed him intercepted communications from various military forces. At least 12 different species are requesting permission to establish embassies on Earth. The trader guilds want to negotiate exclusive partnerships with human colonies. 3 different scientific alliances are offering to share technology that's centuries ahead of ours. All because we were nice to people, Hyunwoo said wonderingly. All because we treated other species like people instead of resources or threats, Da-Eun corrected. Sir, we need to get down to the colony ship. Ambassador Q-Min has called an emergency diplomatic conference. Representatives from 57 different species want to discuss something called the Great Convocation. They took a shuttle down to the New Sol, flying through a maze of alien ships unlike anything in the databases. The singing crystals had vessels that looked like enormous musical instruments. The hive builders flew in ships that resembled massive insects made of metal and light. The dream catchers traveled in vessels that seemed to shift and change shape as Hyunwoo watched. In the colony ship's main conference room, the most unusual diplomatic gathering in history was taking place. Since most of the alien species couldn't breathe human atmosphere, they appeared as holograms projected from their ships. The room filled with impossible beings, speaking in languages that the universal translators struggled to handle. Ambassador. Q-Min looked exhausted but determined as he stood before the assembly. Thank you all for coming, he began. We need to discuss what happens next. Admiral Thexval's hologram spoke first. The immediate crisis is resolved. The Hegemony Coalition has agreed to a ceasefire. Supreme Chancellor Veltara wishes to negotiate. But the larger issue remains, added the representative of the Quiet Ones. This gathering has revealed something that changes everything. Humanity has accidentally created the largest alliance network in galactic history through simple kindness. Overlord Krexthon's image appeared. his shark-like features showing defeat and confusion. "I still don't understand how this happened. My intelligence services reported that humans had few allies and limited influence." "Your intelligence services," the Photonic Emperor replied, "looked for military alliances and trade agreements. They didn't look for debts of honor, cultural exchanges, or acts of kindness." The representative of the mathematical concordance projected geometric shapes as it spoke. "The humans solved the friendship paradox without realizing it existed. How do you create lasting alliances between species with completely different values, needs, and ways of thinking? You help them without expecting anything in return," Admiral Thexaval answered. "You share freely. You treat them as equals regardless of their technology level or military strength." Supreme Chancellor Veltara's crystalline form materialized in the center of the room. "This discussion is philosophical nonsense," she declared. "Power structures exist for a reason. Order must be maintained. The strong must guide the weak." "And yet," the representative of the Void Touched said quietly, "the weak have assembled the strongest fleet in galactic history simply by being kind." Daon leaned close to Hyunwoo and whispered, "Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the fleet. If this alliance decided to act together, they could reshape the entire galaxy in a matter of months." Hyunwoo felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Humanity had stumbled into becoming the center of a galactic power structure they had never sought and barely understood. Dr. So Young stood up from her position near the back of the room. "If I may," she said, and the entire assembly fell silent. "We're discussing this like humanity planned it, like we set out to create this alliance network, but we didn't." She walked to the center of the room, surrounded by the holograms of impossible beings. "We explored space because we were curious. We helped people because it seemed like the right thing to do. We shared our knowledge because we thought everyone deserved a chance to learn. We never thought about building political power or creating military alliances, which is exactly why it worked," the Wandering Fleet representative said. "True friendship cannot be forced or purchased. It must be freely given and freely received." "So, what do we do now?" Ambassador Q-Min asked. "How do we handle this responsibility?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Admiral Thexval stood up from his holographic representation. "We do what humans always do," he said simply. "We try to help everyone." "And if that's not enough?" Overlord Krexthon asked. Admiral Hyunwoo stood up, feeling the eyes of 57 different species upon him. "Then we try harder." Outside the conference room, through the massive windows of the colony ship, thousands of alien vessels waited to see what humanity would choose to do with the impossible gift they had unknowingly created. Diplomacy specialist Su Jin stood before the largest gathering of intelligent species in galactic history. The main conference hall aboard the new Soul had been expanded with holographic projectors to accommodate representatives from over 60 different civilizations. Some appeared as shifting patterns of light. Others looked like living crystals or flowing water. A few seemed to exist partially in other dimensions. "The Great Convocation will now begin," Su Jin announced, her voice carried to every ship in the massive fleet through quantum communication links. "We are here to decide how the galaxy should work when everyone has a voice." It had been 3 days since the impossible fleet assembled around the human colony ship. 3 days of constant negotiation, cultural exchange, and growing understanding. The old power structures were crumbling as species after species declared their independence from the hegemony coalition. Supreme Chancellor Veltara's crystalline form stood in the center of the hall, surrounded by former allies who now questioned everything they had believed about galactic politics. "This is chaos," she declared. "Without central authority, without established hierarchies, there can be no order." "Order through fear is not order," replied the representative of the singing crystals. "It is merely suspended conflict. True order comes from cooperation." Admiral Hyunwoo watched from the observation gallery as Dr. So Young presented humanity's proposal. The plan was simple in concept, but revolutionary in practice. The Cooperative Commonwealth, a galactic organization based on mutual aid instead of military dominance. "The basic principle is this," So Young explained to the assembly. "Every species, regardless of size or technological level, gets an equal voice in decisions that affect them. Military force is used only for defense and humanitarian aid. Scientific knowledge is shared freely. Cultural exchange is encouraged. Impossible, Overlord Krexthon interjected. His saurian features showed confusion and anger. How can primitives have equal voices with advanced civilizations? How can order be maintained without the threat of force? The answer came from an unexpected source. The Benthic Collective, the whale-like beings who swam between galaxies, sang their response in harmonies that made the air itself vibrate with meaning. We have lived for millions of years without conquest or domination, their song translated as. We survive through cooperation, through sharing resources, through helping others when they are in need. The young teach the old new songs. The old teach the young ancient wisdom. All voices matter in the great symphony. Admiral Thexval stood up, his scarred features showing deep thought. My people have followed the warrior's path for millennia. We believed that strength came from conquest. But watching the humans save our world, seeing this gathering they created through simple kindness, perhaps there are different kinds of strength? This is madness, Chancellor Velterra declared. Without established authority, without clear power structures, civilization will collapse into anarchy. Will it? Sujin asked gently. Let's look at what's happened here. 60 different species, many of whom had never met before, have organized themselves into the largest cooperative fleet in history. No central authority ordered this. No military force compelled it. Yet here we are, working together. The Photonic Emperor's rainbow-colored form pulsed with thoughtful light. The humans demonstrate something we had forgotten. True authority comes not from the ability to punish, but from the willingness to serve. Over the next several hours, species after species stood to declare their support for the cooperative commonwealth. The geometric minds offered to share their mathematical insights with anyone who could use them. The Builder Collective promised to help construct space habitats for species whose worlds were in danger. The Dreamweavers pledged to help resolve conflicts through shared understanding. But the most significant moment came when Captain Minho stood up to address the assembly. Before we vote on this proposal, he said, humanity wants to offer something to every species here, including those who opposed us. He activated a holographic display showing detailed technical specifications. This is our complete terraforming technology, the same techniques we plan to use on Kepler 442c. We're offering to share this freely with anyone who needs new worlds or wants to restore damaged ones. The hall fell silent. Terraforming technology was incredibly valuable, worth entire star systems in trade. By offering it freely, humanity was giving away something that could have made them the wealthiest species in the galaxy. Why? Chancellor Velterra asked, her crystalline voice carrying genuine confusion. This technology could buy you anything you wanted: power, territory, resources. Why give it away? Captain Minho smiled. Because 50,000 humans need a new home, and we figure the best way to get one is to help everyone else get homes too. The vote, when it came, was overwhelming. 57 species voted to join the cooperative commonwealth. Only 3 abstained, and even they requested observer status. The Hegemony Coalition, which had ruled large portions of the galaxy for centuries, dissolved overnight as member species abandoned the old ways. Overlord Krexthon, finding himself suddenly without an empire to rule, made a final desperate plea. This cannot work. There must be hierarchy. There must be control. There is hierarchy, Admiral Thexval replied calmly. Those who help the most are respected the most. Those who share the most are trusted the most. Those who care for others are cared for in return. And control, Krexthon demanded, is overrated, Dr. So-Young said with a laugh. We humans have been out of control since we first left Earth. Look how well that worked out for us. The ceremony to formally establish the cooperative commonwealth took place in space, with representatives from every member species present either physically or through advanced holographic projection. The new Sol, still surrounded by the impossible fleet, served as the temporary capital of the new galactic order. Su Jin, elected as the first Secretary General of the Commonwealth, gave a brief speech that was broadcast to trillions of beings. Across hundreds of worlds, Today we choose cooperation over conquest, she said. We choose sharing over hoarding. We choose kindness over cruelty. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. Admiral Hyun Woo watched from the observation deck as the great fleet began to disperse. Some ships headed home to spread word of the new alliance. Others escorted the new Soul toward Kepler 442c, where the largest construction project in galactic history would soon begin. The first world in the kindness territories, as the media had dubbed the Commonwealth space, would be built not just by humans, but by dozens of species working together. The builders would create the infrastructure. The crystalline healers would design the medical facilities. The singing crystals would provide entertainment centers where music from 100 worlds could be shared. Intelligence Officer Da-un joined him at the observation window. Sir, we're receiving messages from Earth. The response to news of the Commonwealth has been enthusiastic. How enthusiastic? Hyun-woo asked. 17 different nations have requested permission to send colony ships to Commonwealth worlds. The UN has voted to contribute Earth's entire xenobiology database to the Commonwealth Science Council. And apparently, children all over the planet are writing letters to our new alien friends. Hyun-woo smiled. Sounds about right. They watched in comfortable silence as the last of the great ships disappeared into hyperspace. In the distance, Kepler 442c hung like a blue-green jewel, waiting to become humanity's first step into a larger universe. Sir, Da-un said quietly, do you think it will work? This cooperative commonwealth? Hyun-woo thought about Admiral Thexval's final message, which had arrived that morning. Your debt to us has been repaid 1,000-fold, but now the galaxy owes humanity a debt that can never be fully settled. I think, Hyun-woo said finally, that we're about to find out what happens when everyone tries to be nice to everyone else. It's either going to be wonderful, or it's going to be chaos. And if it's chaos? Admiral Hyun-woo laughed, remembering Dr. So-young's words. Then it'll be our kind of chaos, the kind where everyone gets helped, everyone gets heard, and everyone gets a chance to be their best selves. Outside the window, the first Commonwealth construction ships were already approaching Kepler 442c, ready to build something the galaxy had never seen before, a world where anyone was welcome, where knowledge was shared freely, and where kindness was the highest form of strength. In the end, humanity had conquered the galaxy not through superior firepower or cunning diplomacy, but through the simple, revolutionary act of treating everyone they met as friends worth helping, and somehow, impossibly, it had worked. The age of the cooperative commonwealth had begun, built on a foundation of accumulated kindnesses and the radical idea that everyone deserved a chance to thrive. Whether it would last remained to be seen, but for the first time in galactic history, every species had hope that it might.